12-year-old girl. And the thing that intrigues me always is that whenever he sets out to do something like this, he usually takes 2, maybe 3 of his disciples only, and perhaps somebody associated with the situation. In this case, it was the parents of the girl. And you ask yourself, why does the Lord act in this way? Wouldn't it have been better to have let the whole crowd in to see what has happened or what was going to happen? We see similar things happening on Mount Tabor. Things like that happened with the centurion's servant and in other places as well. Many of the things that are in the Gospels, the church is using them, if you like the name of the word, as some of the mysteries of the church, in the sense that these are the things that we do in order to worship the Lord. If he had taken lots and lots of people with him on an incident like that, I would not be surprised if the idea of raising the dead or something would become a sort of a mystery in the church, and you'd have all sorts of people running around saying that I can raise people from the dead and cure this one and cure that one and do all these sorts of things. And that would be silly, because the reasons behind many of these things are deep and are not expounded in Scripture as such, but to find out about them, you need to read what the Holy Fathers say. You understand what we mean by the mysteries of the church. Like, we're here today on a Sunday to serve one of the mysteries of the church, the Holy Liturgy, where Christ's body and blood will be given to those who so desire it for their salvation. In the reading that we heard just before from the epistle, there were mentioned 3 important things which, when I hear them, present strange images about the sort of things that are happening in the world today and how these 3 things fit in. They are the faith that we hold, the belief in the one God in truth, and the idea that there has to be unity, that there is only one church and not many. But what I see and imagine today, and it probably has been in other times as well, particularly in the previous century, those who are leaders in the church standing like dealers at a marketplace, showing their wares, whatever it might be, Bibles, icons or whatever, trying to attract people into their fold, irrespective of whether that is an Orthodox fold in truth or something else. And because people are not trained today to discern these things, it's very easy to put them onto wrong paths and to, in essence, grab them into what we call sectanti, secular establishments of various types. You know, one bishop might say, look how beautiful all my raiment is, I must be good, come to me. Or look at how wonderful our chapel or church is adorned, and all such things. But all those have nothing to do at all with the three main aspects that were mentioned in the Gospel this morning. Because the ones in the Gospel this morning had to do with spiritual things, with spiritual life. First one being is that there is only one church, not dozens of different churches. Whatever differences we think they have are usually only bound up with language. That's all. Other than that, a true Orthodox church is going to have the same teaching, same mysteries, all the same things as each other, and as has been from the moment that the church was made whole on earth. So that is one thing for us to be aware of, that there is only one church. I know that even in Melbourne, poor old small Melbourne, groups fight with each other for parishioners and for trying to make out that they are more canonical or more righteous than the others. I am yet still to meet this person who goes around the world and says, you're canonical, you're canonical, you're not. You're canonical, you're canonical, and you're not. Who is it? Santa Claus or who? Who determines this canonicity about the externals of the church? Who? Because there are many things which happen which seem to be uncanonical, but are canonical, and which are canonical and may not be canonical. The latest one that we came across this week is the beginning of the war to discredit Holy Father Seraphim Rose. Very strange. A person who devoted his life completely to God and brought thousands of people, especially in Russia, to the true faith through his works, is now being attacked, especially by a very well-known monastery, whose name I won't mention, to put him down as a nobody, Why? Because in his early life, he, like all of us, had sinful incidences. St. Paul used to go around and murder Christians. And yet, look at the works that he did after his conversion and repentance. And there seems to be this continual fight of jealousies that our church or our bishop or our situation is more pleasing before God than yours. Well, how do you know? How do you know? I've witnessed all sorts of things that you'd think would be very wrong, but turned out to be pleasing to the Lord and brought joy to those who were partakers of that. The other thing that always strikes me is the reference to Christ's hem. We see it at baptisms, at weddings, at various services, such places. Christ's hem. Just as today, this sick woman managed to touch Christ's hem and was immediately cured. Of course, when you take this in its expanded form, it means coming to church and praying before the Lord, his icons and whatever, and asking for whatever needs you may have, that is touching his hem, hoping that he will answer you in the way that you may wish. But most of the time he answers you in the wisdom that you need rather than in the way that you want it. And to marry people, whenever we do a crowning service or something like this, and we do the procession, the couple hang on to the priest's phalonion, which is like Christ's hem. And I say, hang on to that. And if you hang on to that, then your marriage will be successful. You won't get out of trouble, because in this world, trouble exists whether you're good or bad. But you will be saved, and whatever trivialities may upset a family or anything like that, hanging on to that Christ's hem will cure all things. Remember those sorts of things, because more and more now we find divisions, splits, and absurd claims by various groups. I hate to say it, often led by bishops of various types, who want to make themselves the leaders of the church, when there is already a leader, Christ, and there is already a church that needs no other leader at all. From these things can stem all sorts of trickery, all sorts of unwholesomeness, and especially the teaching of children wrongly, who once something like that is taken into the heart, can often be very difficult to expel, if at all. Right now we have a person who wants to be Orthodox but hates it. Strange. And in our life as missionaries, we have come across several people like that. They want to be Orthodox, but they hate the Orthodoxy. You know, what is it that they want and like if they don't like and cannot live with that? Is it because Orthodoxy sounds very strict and unbearable with all its so-called rules and regulations? But remember that these were given as the perfection of the life of Christ. And very few people reach such a perfection. And hence we have confession and communion and things like that to help us along in walking a righteous path. But don't think that just by doing something that is one commandment out of 1,000 makes you somehow holier than you were before that. Orthodoxy is a very free way of life. In many respects, it allows more than anything else allows. But of course, as you grow and become circumspect in it, you start to understand that, okay, I used to do these things and I was free to do them, but I realise now that I shouldn't have, because they take me away from the tight grip on Christ's hand and even plunge me into darkness and evil. Therefore, be careful with these things in our times. And be aware also that you cannot be responsible for everybody around you in so far as salvation is concerned. People are given a free will and a choice, and once they are mature enough to make those choices, your duty, the mother, a father, a relative, a friend, or anything like that, does not require of you to try and change that person, especially by force. But on the contrary, they have to change themselves, because they have to realise that that one church, no matter where it is, no matter what language is used there, is still one church, and the teaching is the same wherever you go. It's the same. You feel comfortable. You go to which Romanian, you go to the Greek, you go to the Serbian, even Antiochian, and you know straight away, especially during liturgy, where it's at, what stages they're at, what's going to happen next, etc. And that shows some sort of good upbringing in the Christian ideal. And that's the way it should be. That's why the Holy Fathers say that if we were plunged back into the early centuries of Christianity and into the church scene there and attended the services, about the only thing that would attract attention was the way we were dressed. And conversely, if people from that age were translated into our times, you know how much comfort they'd find seeing the sinfulness that's opened up in the world. But insofar as the mysteries are concerned, they would have no hesitation in understanding that this is the way it is that Christ gave to us. God help us to understand this. To love ourselves, I'll use this term, to love ourselves sufficiently so that we can love others. Because if you don't love yourself, you won't love others, even though you might say you do. And loving yourself is not as easy as it seems, because the Lord continually teaches us the requirement to become Christ-like, and therefore at times he gives us joyfulness and easy times, and at other times difficulties of various types. And these difficulties of various types go away. They go away. One way or another. Those who hang on to Christ's hem will have those difficulties go away. May we, with the help of our guardian angels, of all the saints that we commemorate today, synaxes of the holy unmercenaries, the ones who cured people and helped others without asking for any reward, give us the strength to do the Lord's work also, as they say, altruistically, not for any reward, but because of love.